And there we are.
Hello.
How's it going?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a special time right now. No, it's a special time for that. And, this is it's a big game tonight. No doubt about it. I think you can hear me okay. Yeah, Charlie?
Yeah.
Good.
All good.
There you go. I'm just going to sort out some audio settings here. I can hear you, I think, a little bit. Before I get into my audio problems, and I can hear you fine now, I think. But what a night. This is special, right? I mean, the leaves are turning, the weather's changing, the big game's coming. No doubt about it. We'll get our big coats on tonight. But here we are in a Canadian Championship week, a semi-final, another CPL game against an MLS club. This is pretty special, no?
Yeah, I'm so excited. And, you mentioned the brisk autumn night. It looks like the rain's going to hold off for the first time all week, which is pretty good, pretty special for everybody heading down to Tim Hortons Field. And it sounds like, by all accounts, there's going to be a lot of those people heading down to Tim Hortons Field, which is what we want. But yeah, I'm just so excited. I mean, I think we're pretty much heading down to Hamilton like right after we finish up the show here, and we're just gonna go, soak up the day, because this is going to be a really special occasion for Forge and for the league as well. It's always a special night, right, when we get these CPL matchups against MLS teams. They're things that we dreamed about when the league first started, and now it feels like they're happening all the time, but they're never not special. They're still so much fun every single time, aren't they?
They certainly are. So here's what's going to happen probably for the next 45 minutes or an hour or so. Charlie and I will be taking you through this game. If you don't know, Charlie and I, obviously from Canadian Premier League, the Newsroom podcast as well. You can download and listen as well. Our colleague and senior extraordinaire producer, Marty Thompson's here as well. And we're going to be joined by Bobby Smyrniotis, head coach of Forge, who are the current two-time champions of the Canadian Premier League. And what a year they've had. They are, by the way, if you're not aware, still playing in CONCACAF. They've got another game against the Costa Rican team, Santos, to come. They're still contending for the Canadian Premier League again, and they're one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to do that with some games to come. And they're playing in a Canadian Championship semi-final, and we still don't know when they get to play the final from the year prior to that. This is how Forge are right now. And we're also going to be joined later by CF Montreal midfielder and current Canadian men's national team star Sam Piette. So two bumper guests on this live show. We're live on YouTube. You can join us in the chat as well. Ask some questions. We'll get to them as well as we get to preview this game. Great to see many of you. Hello to Leo and to Julian, Damien as well. All of you in there asking to come in and see. Come on in and ask questions for us. Ask questions for our guests, Bobby Smyrniotis as well. And I know, Charlie, this has been a quick turnaround. You and I were both watching the game last night as Pacific FC dismantled FC Edmonton in Canadian Premier League action by 5-1. And also probably an equal dismantling took place in Winnipeg as Valor destroyed Halifax by 3-0 as well. This is the business end of the season here in the Canadian Premier League. And I guess with the semi-finals coming as well, it's not lost on us that last year we had very little to talk about. And here we are, almost games every 48 hours. This is a special time as well, John.
It is. It feels like there's a massive game almost every day, whether it's, a CPL game as they do the run into the playoffs here. And there's still, I guess, 6 teams still alive in the hunt for that top 4 now that Valor are making a bit of a play by beating Halifax last night. But it's so much fun. Yeah, we've got, as you mentioned, Forge still in CONCACAF. This Canadian Championship is going to be really fun because we've also got, that other semifinal coming up quite shortly with Pacific heading down to BMO Field to play TFC. Just every game for the next month, I think, possibly even more than that. It's just going to be so huge. The stakes are just enormous in this month of November in football, for Canadian football. It's just, I don't know how we're going to stay on top of it all, but we're going to have to.
We're enjoying every minute with a smile on our face. 10 minutes away from Bobby Smyrniotis joining us. I think, Charlie, the best place to start is talking about what we've learned already and how much we've enjoyed these CPL versus MLS games, right? I mean, we're all over the one where Pacific knocked out the Whitecaps. Obviously, TFC knocked out York as well. But just having these matchups are special. And I know Forge have had a lot of big games and they're waiting for their moment against an MLS team. This Forge team are not a team to be pushed aside by any means. We heard Wilfred Nancy talk about that. We've heard Montreal be very respectful in the build-up for this as well. This is just great, is it not, for the Canadian Premier League? This is what it was built on, opportunities to contend and go up against, obviously, let's be honest, superior opposition with Major League Soccer.
Absolutely. And you can see it every time these matchups happen. I think certainly in some ways these are opportunities for the CPL clubs and definitely the CPL players who, obviously have ambitions of moving up to play in MLS or play at other high levels. And, if you beat an MLS team and you perform well against them, that absolutely, puts you on their radar, right? I mean, even there's a player coming to town with CF Montreal and Joel Waterman who basically did exactly that in the Canadian Championship in 2019 when he played against Montreal with Cavalry. And every time these teams match up against each other, it's just there's a real sense of hunger in the CPL side. Even if they do lose, which they're in many cases expected to do so, right? But there's always this hunger, and they're never pushovers in this game. And I think this is a lot of fun. And honestly, it's almost strange to me that Forge are so late to the game here. I think they're the 5th CPL team to play MLS opposition, which almost seems strange considering how much Forge have accomplished. But they've been busy taking on international competition for most of that time. But it's just so exciting.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned they've had other frontiers to conquer and climb different mountains. You said about, obviously most of the time you expect MLS teams to win. I'd say that was certainly evident in the last round with CF Montreal. Obviously, they went to Wanderers grounds. They played Halifax. If you didn't see it, a really good, close contest, although Montreal, Blue Tablet got 2 goals late in the game and the scoreline was 3-1. It was a very close scoreline, even though Stephen Hart, I thought, was very magnanimous, as he often is, saying that it was obviously a bit of a different class above the level, but they hung in there. And that was, I think that was a recognition right away if CF Montreal needed it, that MLS teams can hang around. And again, being magnanimous towards this, Halifax are not where Forge are right now.
No.
Halifax are, if people are joining us and they're not quite sure about where they are a playoff periphery team right now. They're trying to get into playoffs. They're battling with York for our 4th and final spot. Forge are, again, as I said, reigning champions. They are ready and battle tested in these big moments as well. I know CF Montreal, Charlie, will go tonight with, I think, a stronger lineup and more awareness that they're going to be tested deeper tonight by this Forge team than even Halifax could do in that great contest obviously a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like there is something different about this particular CPL MLS matchup. Because obviously it's the CPL champions. And, I feel like if in all of these other games where these teams have matched up, there's been certainly optimism and there's been a lot of hope. And, it's worked out well for CPL teams in the past with Pacific and Cavalry. But I don't know if the word expectation is the right one, but it feels like a little bit less of, a wild hope or a vague optimism with Forge here. It feels like, they genuinely are in with a very good shot against this team. And that's certainly how they'll feel, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, maybe we could Marty can put it up. Duncan's question there on the right-hand side about MLS players, maybe coming from the CPL. That's a pretty, I think, topical discussion right now because, again, I know there are players on this Forge team that MLS clubs are watching. And tonight, they will get to watch them closer to a standard of opposition where they want to judge them more. You mentioned Joel Waterman, and he's been terrific, by the way, showing the way that teams within CPL players can make it to that MLS level. And when you ask, we get asked this a lot, which CPL players do you think are going to the MLS? I think there are more than I can count on my hands, honestly, across the league that I think could play in Major League Soccer competitively, consistently. But I don't think there are more from a team than Forge. I think if I was to name the 10 players, if you put me down to name 10, I think I would name quite a few from this team, Charlie. Right away, I think of Kristian, I think of Ashnodi Jonsson, I think of Cisse. I think of players like that. I know you're a big Awuah fan. Becker's done that, been there and done that, and he's probably not going to go back with his trajectory of his career, but could, of course, play at that level, the standard that he's doing right now. They're just some. Maybe we can just speak to that a little bit before we get Bobby on.
Yeah, and I think the thing particularly about a lot of these Forge players is, they're not necessarily young prospects that teams at higher levels will take on as projects or players that they want to develop. There are players on this Forge team that could do a job in MLS right now, and certainly players that have in the past. You mentioned Awuah, who did a serviceable job with New York City for a little bit there, and there are plenty of players on this Forge team that are kind of in that, that they're not super young anymore. A lot of players in that sort of 24 to 26 kind of age range who could come in and be very impactful in MLS right now, especially in these positions that you look for value in that league. Certainly defenders and central midfielders are often the players that you look domestically or you look to find bargains at. And I think,
of course,
that's, really, really something that could end up playing in Forge's favor even this offseason.
Yeah, and here's another thing that could end up being Forge's favor tonight is that we know the level of focus for these games are high, right? We know, again, they played a lot of games this year already in the league. They are, I think, extremely fit as a group. They've got a good group. They got a lot of rotation that Bobby Smyrniotis has done. And I think that the level of rotation is one thing. The level of standard of the players that have come in is another. There's no significant drop-off when they make 4 or 5 changes for each game. I think that's really noticeable. But this battle-hardened team, Charlie, used to playing these big games in Central America, are used to matches like this tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing that's giving them a little bit more of maybe, if we want to say expectation, a little bit more of that feeling going into this game, because they've been in situations where they're on the ropes against a tough team, or they've been in knockout games away from home more often than at home, and in environments that are far more hostile and difficult than playing at home at Tim Hortons Field, right?
Right.
And so now that they've got this kind of night under the lights, which these are the sorts of nights that they have really, really wanted for so long. They had that return in the CONCACAF League a couple of weeks ago against Independiente, but now this Canadian Championship game against an MLS team. This is the kind of night that Forge have been just desperate for since they've won on both of their championships, right? And it's just going to be a very special night because they've been in these situations, they've been in tough situations, and just the word you said, battle hardened. That really is this Forge team, because they've really seen it all in the continent, right?
They definitely have. And I think that's what, again, people are going tonight, whether you're an MLS fan, whether you're a soccer fan in Canada, whether you're a Forge fan, whether you've never been to a game at Tim Hortons Field before. I think that, I cannot stress enough, go get yourself a ticket. They're not expensive. It's, these kind of nights, well, as Charlie mentioned, a little cooler. You're not going to get wet. Don't blame me if you do. But we hope you're not going to get wet. A little cooler, a proper cup tie. And it feels better when these cup ties are a little bit in the cooler weather as well. What you are going to see is you're going to see a very impressive CF Montreal team who have done a very good job. A bit of a gut punch on the weekend, by the way, from Altidore to just steal 2 points from them at the death there, as they're really on that borderline of pushing Atlanta and others to try and get into the playoffs, where I think they deserve it. It's got, quite frankly, what Wilfried Nancy's done. And we'll get to that later with Sammy Pierre. We'll talk about some of the improvements that he's brought to that team this year. You're going to see a good CF Montreal team, but you're going to see a competitive Forge team. You're going to see a team that is a very good team at playing out from the back, that won't change their identity because of who they're playing. An outstanding midfield trio of Ashnoni Jonsson, Becker, and Cisse that can compete with the CF Montreal's midfield. Players in wide areas with pace. Obviously, Omar Brownie's got that connection as well, that he can make a difference as well if he plays as well. And I think in CF Montreal, we're going to see a team, Charlie, that feels like this is their competition.
Yeah.
They won they were the last ones to lift it. And I know that TFC got to represent the teams in the championship, in the CONCACAF championship, because of, obviously, Champions League, because of what happened last year, but they still feel quite rightly that this is their trophy, and they're the reigning holders of this.
Yeah, I think they're right to do so, because they are the last team to lift the trophy, right? And I think I'm sure you were. I was at BMO Field that day when they won on penalties to win the Voyageurs Cup, and it was a very special moment for them, because they'd kind of the tournament had really been TFC's for a few years there, and Montreal hadn't won it in a little bit, and it was a big deal for them. And it is, for one thing, it's really nice to see how much this competition means even to the MLS clubs to win that trophy. And, you never sniff at silverware, right? Every team always, anywhere in the world, if there's a trophy on the line, then you want it very desperately. And I think now that we're at this stage of the competition, I don't know, for me, the word semi-final has a bit of a more special ring to it than anything else. It feels like you're really getting right down to the end of it here. And there's actually just massive stakes. And I do expect Montreal to be, frankly, as desperate to win this game as Forge are.
Yeah, both Montreal and TFC know that, look, they want to win MLS Cup. but they're not going to win it this year. And I think CF Montreal will try and get in the playoffs and make some inroads. They understand that. TFC not. For them, it's their priority. And I think for Montreal tonight, we'll see that it's their priority as well. You can't take that feeling away when, speaking to players for years and years, that moment, it's nice when winning a game, but when you put a medal on or you lift that trophy, that sticks with players for the rest of their lives. That's why you play the game, and I think, that's what Bobby will talk about. That's what Forge have had when they've lifted the shield twice already. That's why you play. There's lots of moments and lots of games that you play that you're never going to get a chance to win. And as you mentioned, that semi-final, and by the way, 90 minutes tonight, one game, boom, you're in the final. Do you know what I mean? And there you go. So that will be, I think it's a really good point that you mentioned there in terms of being up for it and playing proper cup football. So, no better time than to ask the man himself. Let's put Bobby Smyrniotis here in the chat because in our show, here he is. What an honor and a pleasure. Here he is. Bobby, it's game day, and I know how busy game days are for you, so we can't thank you enough for joining us, first of all, on this special night. And I guess that's where we'll start, right? It's a special night again for your team. We've just been talking about some Canadian Premier League teams already having the opportunities to go head-to-head and competitively with Major League Soccer teams. You've conquered a lot of things. Central America played some big games, but I guess this is right up there tonight as you get set to prepare your team to play another enormous match at Tim Hortons Field. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's another special moment, a special night. I always talk about the CONCACAF and the Continental Nights and how special those have become, both playing at home, not as many games as we've played away, but this is just another one. We have a short history as a club. We've obviously achieved a lot in that small period. And here's another game where we're looking forward to. Two teams, as I always say, 22 players on the pitch and ready to go.
Yeah. Bobby, you spoke about this yesterday in the pre-match press conference sort of thing, but just again, this single knockout game isn't really new to you guys, probably more than any other CPL team because of what you've seen in CONCACAF, what you've been through with various, CPL finals and things like that. Just how much does that kind of experience, we used the word battle hardened earlier in this show, just how much does that really help you guys heading into these sorts of games?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is in these matches is attention to detail. It's the details that usually make the difference. And having been in those environments, because the DNA of the football doesn't change a lot, but it's all about everything: set pieces, restarts, all the little things that make the biggest difference. The battles in midfield, the second balls, and I think that's the one thing you get from all these previous games is you've understood what needs to go into a match like this.
And Bobby, what about the collective mentality of your group? I know that those kind of things for some coaches are the missing links. But I would say for you that you probably put that aside as being something you haven't thought about for a number of months, right? Because you just know that this group's ready to go out there and play. When you've got a group like that you can trust, that must take a ton of pressure off you, that that, there's different things that will take care of the game and the outcomes, but mentally your team's always going to be ready.
Yeah, that's the one thing we're confident in. In the big games, these guys are ready to go. That's the biggest thing. They don't need that extra level of motivation. They don't need that extra level of spark. We've got the football ready. And, I'm always confident that the guys step on the field and they know what's needed to take care of, what they need to take care of in that moment. And that's something that they've proven over the last few years. We've got a team that's been together for the most part for a while. The new players have fit in very well. And obviously the experiences this year, having played 5 games in CONCACAF, and they're emotional roller coasters. And I think tonight will be a little bit the same.
You guys at the moment are in the midst of this just crazy stretch of juggling all these competitions right now at the moment. We've already alluded to it. You're still in the CONCACAF League. Obviously, the CPL season is coming right down to the wire here with this race for positioning. And obviously this you're quite close to that Canadian Championship final if you get through 90 minutes here. Just what's it like for you guys just to kind of, shift focus from game to game? And obviously every game right now seems massive, to have massive stakes. And when you're playing them in such quick succession, just how do you guys maybe cope with all that?
Yeah, the one thing's for sure, I think I'm going to write a book on this one day. I don't know when that book's going to come because, nothing really prepares you for it. You go kind of with momentum, you go game by game. And I think that's the most important thing. You just take things game by game and try and keep your focus and not get too high because of who the opponent is or what they put in front of you. Just try and keep everything a little bit steady. We're competing in 3 competitions here. We want to be able to have success in those. That's not an easy thing. We're looking at a little bit of our comparisons and statistics between ourselves and Montreal. And I think they've played 31 games to date and we've played 29. in 2 months, shorter of a season. So it's hectic, and you just go with it. Tonight we know it's a battle for one game, and then we'll switch our focus tomorrow. Then what comes with the CPL in Halifax on Saturday, and then we have to do it again, all over again 2 days later. But we have strength in the squad. We have strength in the depth of what we're doing. We can change faces in the squad, which doesn't change a lot of the DNA of the team. Maybe we'll change formations, different things like that. But we've seen a lot of things over the year that we're happy with as a coaching staff, and I think that pushes us forward over this period.
Bobby, you may have answered most of this question there, but Julian asks in our chat, what's your secret formula? I'm not sure if you want to divulge any secrets, but what's your formula for keeping your players fresh during that time? Is there certain people you rely on? Maybe you could talk a little bit about sports science. Do you actually have like one-on-one chats? Because it's not just physical, mentally, to see how these players are going. Maybe you can just take us behind the curtain a little bit in terms of how you manage that.
Yeah, I think first of all, the most important thing during a stretch like this is the mental component. Because the physical thing, sometimes players will push themselves a little bit. There'll be a little bit more adrenaline. We've had a good, healthy rotation, especially from the midfield and forward, and keeping the guys physically going. But I think the biggest thing you have to watch for is the mental part of the game. It's draining. If we look at the last 10 days, we've had a 12-hour trip to Costa Rica and a 16-hour trip back from Costa Rica into Halifax to play. Then you have to bring the guys into this game and the emotions that go with this. So I think the biggest thing is the mental component. And I think the most important thing is making sure you have all the players engaged. And so one thing that I always work with the team, it's, all 23 players, 22 players, whoever's in the training session, they're engaged in everything that has to do from the start to the finish and the tactics. There isn't a focus on 11, there isn't a focus on 12 or 13, but really there's the focus on the 23. Because every 3 days, the player who doesn't play today against Montreal will play against Halifax, or he'll have to be ready against Santos. So you have to make sure that those players are engaged every day. And I think that's the biggest thing we've worked on since day one in 2019, and I continue to do today with the team.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys really do it. It's really crazy. I mean, but maybe on a smaller scale, like just zeroing in on this game against Montreal, we were talking about it earlier in the show here about how part of, the CPL's mission and goal is to develop Canadian players, right? And help them to move up to new levels and, demonstrate the talent that's on offer in this country. And I know that you've spoken, Bobby, about how, no player is defined by a game. These games aren't, going to make or break careers for players, but there's definitely a motivation factor here, right? When you play a team at a higher level with a bigger payroll, like there's something in this for players that they want to show themselves about these teams, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. When you look across the Canadian Premier League, you look across Forge, there's a number of players that easily are playing in MLS and different other leagues. Again, I'm not the guy that makes the decision on that. I make the decisions at Forge. So I think that gives that motivation to the players. For our club, we know we're one of the top Canadian clubs in the country. We know with our infrastructure, what we have, the players understand what they have at their disposal at Tim Hortons Field. The coaching staff, everything, the staff behind them, that everything is top notch. And I think that gives them also that extra motivation. But yeah, in the end of the day, we're 22 guys. And as the late Johan Cruyff said, you have never seen a bag of money score goals. So we're out there to play.
I love it. Anytime you can quote Johan Cruyff, you're in my good books, mate. You mentioned something there, and I think it's worth diving a bit more deeper into it in terms of, when I talk to people across MLS or around the world and agents and different coaches, they ask me about players in the league, and I'm sure you get those calls all the time. What I like about it, and I'm sure, Bobby, you as a leader, you don't want to lose your best players, right? But you don't shy away from it, right? If players know they can come to play for Forge and there's an avenue for them to go on and get looked and scouted up, that's important, that they feel comfortable that you're going to have their back and allow them to progress and go forward and move on in their trajectory of their careers. And then you can find the next person that you can take that going forward and not hide away from them.
100%. As coaches, as an organization here at Forge, we're comfortable with that. If we have to lose our best players every year because it's a better move for their career, then that's something we're looking forward to. That's something we want to be able to embrace and have that in order to keep things moving. And we always know there's more players coming. The world of football is a food chain. And until you get up to the top, and we can debate on who's on the top of that, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Players have an ability, and that's the beauty of this game. Everyone in this game, from the work that you guys do, everyone has an ability to climb a ladder, and there's a chain as you move to the top. So of course we're part of that. I think you always need to understand where you are in the football landscape, both from the business side of things, and from the technical side of things. And of course, we want to see players moving along. And you guys mentioned something that's very important to me, and it's the development. And sometimes it's not only the development of players who are going to move on from this league, because we're a new league. We're 3 years old. We're going to see some players who maybe put in 8-9 years in this league, and that's also development. That's also something that I think we should be talking about and seeing as the league goes on, because we're going to have some guys who are going to make a great career playing in the CPL. And of course, we want to see, the top guys moving on to the different levels of the game. But I think there's the two sides of the development, the ones that will leave and the ones that we gradually see year over year getting better in this league and become career veterans.
That's kind of actually what I wanted to ask about there. You mentioned this league is young, and I think there's no questioning. We don't need to beat around the bush that the MLS teams are higher in that food chain you mentioned, right, than a CPL. Obviously the budgets are bigger and they're more established. But in this Canadian Championship, whenever these two leagues come up against each other, these games seem really competitive for the most part. I don't know, Bobby, if you've been maybe surprised by how quickly these CPL teams have been able to be competitive even from year one, or if you think that's just maybe shows how much talent there can be in this country.
Yeah, I think it's there's a couple of things that go into it. It's when you catch the teams and what form each team is in, because I think that plays a big role. Take away, and I'm not saying this is an overall bad thing across, but take away 3 DPs from MLS teams, 2-3 TAN players, and we're pretty even across the board. I've said that jokingly. Give me 3 DPs and maybe a couple of other guys, and we're ready to go at a higher level here at Forge. So, with that being said, and then you look at the motivation that goes into the thing, I haven't been surprised by some of the results. Again, those single games don't define one way or the other, but it also shows that the quality is in this league right across, both from a footballing aspect, from a tactical end of things. And I think we keep on growing that way.
Bobby, me, and I like to talk to you about your midfielders. Slightly obsessed with these 3, to be honest, the way that they continue to play together. And I'm sure you just love writing them down every time. And you don't even need to tell us tonight if the 3 are playing in a midfield or if the different formation. I'm not going to ask you that much. But what I am going to ask you about is the 3 of them. Obviously, Kyle Becker, Alexander Ashnoy-Johnson, and Alamani Cisse. What's it like watching them take over games? And you know what it's like no matter whether you're watching a game on the park next week or Real Madrid-Barcelona. Midfield can win you matches, can't it?
100%. They're excellent, and the beauty about the 3 of them is they each bring something different. They each bring something different in their position, in their zone of the field, and what they bring. You have Janssen, who's just fantastic and sitting in his position, winning things, moving the ball forward, being simple. For me, that's the most important position on the field. Sometimes it's the silent work that we don't see. It's not the flashiest, but it keeps the engine moving. And that's what's the importance there. Then you have a player like Cisse, who's just tireless on the field, both on and off the ball, and what he can do and the ground he covers, and the quality of football that he has in him, to make sure he's moving the ball and he's getting it to the right people who need to be explosive in that final third. Of course, we'd like some more goals from him, but we'll take the work rate that he puts in. And then Kyle Becker's the leader out there. And, he's going to give you stuff going both ways. He's had some crucial very important goals for us this year, assists. He's deadly on the set pieces, and then he's just a leader on the pitch, making everyone move. So when you can have that balance in the midfield, I think anyone would take it.
Yeah, and that balance is something that really sticks out to me about this Forge team. Bobby, you mentioned earlier that no matter what shape you guys line up in tonight, you're still going to be true to your identity, true to your DNA. But for me, I think the fact that you guys change your shape so often, are able to do so much, is part of Forge's DNA to me, because it really impresses me how quickly such a young team has been able to develop such a tactical flexibility, right? You guys can play with 3 at the back, you can play with 4, false 9, striker, whatever. Just how much is that flexibility and that just really intelligent tactical knowledge been something you've kind of drilled into this team from day one?
Yeah, I think if you do one thing, you get bored after a while. Maybe as a player you get bored of doing it. Maybe you get bored of the coach and you stop listening to him. I think maybe as coaches we stop listening to ourselves. So I think you always need to evolve. We play in a league where we play each team quite a few times throughout the season. We're not the European League where we see each team twice. So I think you need to change things up. You need to move things around. Also, from us as coaches, you need to progress with the game. You need to innovate. You need to find different ways of stimulating your players. And we also have a group of players who I think are very flexible in what they can do. Wingers who can play by hugging the line or can be inside in the half spaces. We have midfielders like Kyle Becker who can play in that half space or who can also drop deeper, pick up the ball and play make from a deep lying position. You have players like Kwame Awua who can get up and down that line or can invert as playing as a midfielder. So you have to use those to your strength. And I think it's important to change things up, especially in a league where we're facing each other all the time. And important matches like this, you also don't want to be predictable going into them. And I think that's something that's important for us.
Last couple of questions, Bobby. And again, we can't thank you enough for spending some time on a big game day for us and a massive one for you, no doubt about it. What will be your message to the team tonight in terms of getting ready for when that MLS team goes to another level, right? Because they can. What has been your discussion to that? And how do you talk to your team to know that when you're suffering, how to come through the suffering? Because no matter who you're playing, not every game you're going to have the ball all the time. Talk to us a little bit about what you talk to your team about how to handle the suffering, which will come during the part of the game tonight. Yeah,
it's something we've talked about. We talked about in preparation for this game. This isn't a game where we expect to be on the ball for 60% of the time or dictate things. We're playing a squad that has a very good identity, likes to be on the ball, likes to possess. So we just have to be comfortable with that. And we have to revert to the tactics that we have for those situations. Be patient. And, the good thing is we've suffered in a couple of games this year. You go down to our game in Panama where we go down one man and in that second half and we have to do things a little bit differently. So I think the players truly understand that. And they understand that, we have to be tactically flexible. And it goes back to our last point. It's understanding where we are in what phase of the field and, how we need to be in that area. Because I think with everything, the same way when you're on the ball and you dominate things, there's opportunities for the opponent against you. It's the same thing when the opponent is able to do that, hold possession, maybe get you into your half. You have to know where the opportunities are to get out of there. So we have to be multidimensional in the way we look at the game.
There's just so many details and so many things to talk about when we head into these games and these big games. But I think sometimes it's important to maybe take a minute and just think about what this is and what this moment is going to mean. I don't know if you feel the same, Bobby, but do you feel like there is a sense where sometimes you need to just take a moment to just enjoy a moment like this and having these big nights under the lights at Tim Hortons Field, after all you guys have been through and all you guys have built?
Yeah, of course. That's one of the biggest messages we give the guys, especially as we walk out into games like this. Enjoy it. Enjoy it because these are great nights. These are great atmospheres. I think it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere tonight at Tim Hortons Field with our crowd behind us. Like you said, under the lights, there's nothing like playing, midweek games and what that brings in, and especially with a knockout match. We know that the whistle will blow at 7:39, and 90 minutes later we'll have a result. And like I said, that result, well, at least in this game, can only go two ways. There is no tie. And somebody's going to come out on top. And I think the most important thing, I think we're going to see a great football match tonight. I think we're going to see two teams that have a clear identity on how they want to play and, both teams who want to go for a trophy.
You've been practicing your penalties, Bobby?
That's what I was about to ask.
every week in training throughout the year. So
nice.
It's one thing we do. It's our set pieces, something we work on weekly. So you're never getting to a point where you get into these matches and then players think of it differently.
Yeah,
so it's something you build into the training sessions throughout. And that way we've got our comfort. We know where to go.
Love it. Hey, listen, you've been really, really gracious with your time. We can't thank you enough. What you're doing there is truly remarkable. As we said off the top, you're still in all these competitions. I think in many people's eyes, favorites to win again, another shield and win this Canadian Premier League as well. But I know that's not on your mind right now. It's all about tonight. So go out there, enjoy it. Thanks for all your work. And then most importantly, thanks again for your time.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy it
so much, Bobby.
We'll be seeing you there. Thanks again. That's Bobby Smyrniotis at Forge FC. Just a true inspiration, no doubt about it, to listen to and talk football about. And again, to have a coach join us, Charlie, on game day is special, no?
Yeah, that is. That, I can't believe that we made that happen because it's very rare to be able to have that kind of conversation with players and coaches when, they're playing a massive game, one of the biggest in club history, in just a few hours. So that was really special to get some of Bobby's insight, which is always a really good time to hear.
It just seems so, and I think this is Forge in a nutshell, but very comfortable in their own skin. You know, like he knows tonight, could go either way, and coaches will tell you all the time they're not going to lose sleep and wondering all the time. It's just the bounce of the ball, right? That's the inevitable luck factor of the game. Sometimes, of course, you go out there and make your own luck, but as he said and alluded to, I think they're going to be ready mentally. You know, of course, you may not win the game, but they're ready, and I think expectation that they can go out there and make a difference against this MLS team.
Yeah, and this is what you prepare for. I mean, in many ways, a lot of the work is already done, especially for a coach, right? You've trained, you've drilled so much into your players, and a few hours from now, Bobby's going to release a team sheet, and then there's going to be 11 plus a bench of players that just have to go and do it for him, really. And at that point, it's really in their hands. So that's kind of the funny thing about football, is you can work so hard and put so much into it, and sometimes you still just need a lucky bounce or something to go your way. You
mentioned the team sheet. We're going to get to Sam Piette in a second, but this is not an easy team to predict. I mean, I think we picked the midfield there. We know, obviously, the back line, depending on injuries, we pretty much have a good idea. But the amount of depth that they have, right? I mean, I think there's a question in here earlier as well about the former Montreal players from Leo, actually. You got Choignard, you've got Pasillas. Obviously, Becker's going to be playing. Does Borges get a game? Didn't play in the first leg of the CONCACAF League and is left on the bench. There's so much depth from an attacking point of view for this team.
Yeah, there is. And even it's impossible to really pick who, I don't want to say that we don't know who the best front three of this team is, because I'm not sure that there is like a cut above top best front three of this team, because they've got 6 maybe attackers that could very, very conceivably slot into this lineup.
Right.
I think Borges will be an interesting one to watch, because he didn't play in Costa Rica, and I don't think he played on the weekend at Halifax either.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday Bobby was saying that he's in full training, he's fully fit. So maybe it's a matter of just keeping him, with as much fuel in the tank as possible, specifically for this game.
Yeah.
And also it makes Montreal's life a lot harder, right? When they have no idea what kind of attack they're going to face, because not only could it be different players, could be a completely different setup. Sometimes Forge like to throw a false 9 thing in there, with even Paulo Sabac has done that sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
So there's just so many options. I really wouldn't be willing to specifically predict much. I feel like David Choignard is probably going to play.
You think Choignard will play? Yeah, I think he'll probably play. Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. I mean, he has that Choignard's got that cup vibe too, right?
Big game player.
Well. Big game player. Anyway, that's our deep dive into Forge. And again, we can't thank Bobby Smyrniotis enough for joining us on game day. Getting access to coaches and players on game day is rare. So basically, you have to ask for really good people. And I'm not saying that not everyone's good people, but one of the next guests we're going to have on our show is one of the best guys you could ever talk to in football. Let's get him on the show. Let's bring him in. Here he is, our boy Sammy Pierre. Hi, Sammy. How's it going?
I'm good. How about you guys?
Yeah, we're great. Kristian and Charlie here previewing a big game tonight. We got lots of people in the chat asking questions. We just had Bobby Smyrniotis on as well. And again, we can't thank you enough. And we know it's game day, and that's really rare for you to join us. So maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about the mood in the camp. You're in Hamilton. It's a big semi-final. This is what you play games for. How excited are you ahead of tonight?
Yeah, no, obviously really, really excited. We're 1 win away from a final, which is you don't get that too often in a career. I think 1 win away to play a final where you can lift a trophy. It's obviously something special. It's a big one here in Hamilton. Obviously, playing a CPL side that's really, I think, hungry to play an MLS team, to show what they're capable of, but also from our side, guys that they want to show that there's a certain reasons why we're on an MLS teams and why we're here and that we deserve a spot in the final, either it's against Toronto or Pacific. So no, it's gonna be a fun one. Excited, and hopefully we can get the win.
Sam, you alluded to it there, but I think us from the CPL side, we always talk about these CPL versus MLS games as these massive contests. But from your guys' side as well, this is probably a really big game. I'm sure you consider yourself the holders of this trophy, having lifted it last, right? So this is just can you speak a little bit to what this competition means to you guys as well?
Yeah, no, like you said, I think obviously with the weird situation that we had last year, there was no competition, and we won it last time. The competition was real back in 2019. So yeah, we're the reigning champion of this cup, and obviously we want to keep it in Montreal. Playing now in Hamilton, these games we saw it. When we went down to Halifax, it's these are a tough place to play because, like I said, the other team is really, hungry to show what they're capable of. Everybody wants to win this cup because, let's be honest, it's not a cup where there's 100 teams and, you have to win, 50 games to try to lift the trophy. So it's one of those competition that you can win the trophy in brackets easily and not go through 20, 25 games. And obviously, for me as a Canadian, it's super important because that's a cup. It's your own cup. You're playing against Canadian team. Now we have the CPL, which is great. And like I said, it's going to be a tough one. They kind of Forge going to come out to battle, but we're going to battle too. We've prepared that game really well, I think. It's not one of those games that it's in between two MLS games where you're fighting for player spot. It's a one that we take very seriously, and I think we're going to show that tonight.
Sam, you mentioned it, the quarterfinal in Halifax. You guys obviously came out on the winning side in the end, and quite rightly, actually, in the second half, quite a dominant performance in the end, but you got the goals late. But what did that take mentally in the group? First of all, pre-match, what was the message mentally? Because you know that everybody's out there gunning against you and everyone wants to win every ball and kick every ball they can against you. And then what did it take at halftime? Because you went down in the game and then came out and played really well in the second half. What kind of messages does that take and would you take into tonight?
Well, I think the message when you play a team that it's in a division below you, first of all, it's obviously to stay humble. I think it's really to do the dirty work and, get stuck in when you have to, win the battle, the 50-50 challenges, and obviously not overlook the opponent. You look at Forge's side, they obviously have a lot of good quality players that played in MLS, experienced team too, young guys coming up that, like I said, once again, and I'm repeating myself, are hungry to show what they're capable of, and why not maybe attract some MLS teams, maybe ours, maybe others. Obviously, everyone is watching this competition. So yeah, I think the first thing and the most important one is to stay humble, and it's not because you play a CPL side that it's going to be easy. On the opposite, and I think we learned it the hard way against Halifax when we went down 1-0 in the first half. And at halftime, the message was to stay patient, to stay composed on the ball. We knew we had quality. We knew we had the physical attribute to take players one-on-one. It was tough because the pitch was small, so anything could happen, like we saw in the goal that we conceded. So it was super important to stay focused and then just to fight, until the last minute, because as soon as you put that on the side and then you think you'll have it easy, this is where you get caught, and this is where maybe the result doesn't go your way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have played more CPL teams than the other two Canadian MLS teams, right? And you've been, I think this is the fourth one, because you played two of them in 2019 as well.
Yeah.
Just for me, at least, this Canadian Championship feels like a bigger competition. It feels a little bit more like an FA Cup kind of Copa del Rey, proper domestic cup competition now that it's bigger, right? I don't know if it feels that way for you guys at all, that just there is a bit of a longer road to that trophy. You get to see maybe more of the country and go to different places rather than, basically just playing the other two Canadian MLS teams for a trophy every time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I joined the team back in 2017, obviously my first competition, my Canadian Cup first run was 2018, and I think we played Vancouver, which was an MLS team, and that was it. We lost that round, and then you go through one round, you play one team that you face during the season, and that's the end of it. So and then I think Vancouver were off to the final, which is pretty weird. Now that we have teams across the country that we can go to these places and play. It was my first time in Halifax, and my girlfriend actually lived there for a couple months, so she knew a lot more about Halifax than myself. And obviously, I'm 100% Canadian. This is my first time in Hamilton. I'm looking forward, to play here, see the fan base, see the the atmosphere around the team, around the city too, and around the league especially. And we saw that in Halifax, where the crowd was really impressive, and they were, obviously behind Halifax, and they gave us a tough time to play there. So now the competition is a lot more serious, and obviously as participant, as players and as Canadian, it's a lot more fun than playing just one game. You're off to the final, and people saying, it's an easy competition. You won 2 games and you lift the trophy. Now you have to go through tough places, like I said, where teams are hungry to show what they have, and that they can, upset some teams, and it makes it a lot more interesting for sure.
Sammy, give us a deep dive into how the team's feeling. Obviously, you're on the borderline of playoffs right now, but you've had a terrific season. I know I always say when you get US media talking about Canadian MLS teams, you're doing something right? Because that's never easy to get them to talk about you guys. And we are getting you finally getting a little bit of respect. And it's not just because you used to have Thierry Henry as your coach. Wilfred Nancy's done great for you guys. Yeah. No, what's it been like? A bit more of a normal season, because obviously the disaster of playing away from home for much of that. Now you come back and you feel like you're in a bit of a rhythm. How's everything going, and how excited are you to try and make that push to get in the playoffs?
Yeah, obviously that's one or two the two objectives that we have right now. Obviously, I think the first one is always to make the playoffs, with the team, the MLS playoffs. And the second one is to win that Canadian Cup. It's not only to reach the final and play whoever is there, it's to win it. And like I said, we won it back in 2019. So we obviously want to keep that cup. I think, like you said, we've had a decent season. We lost too many points, in a too easy way, where we could have got those points. I think the way we are playing this year and how the coach Wilfred wants us to play, we've adapted to that really well, and we've shown that we can compete with any team. Obviously, like I said, the result weren't always on our side, but I think we've proved to a lot of people that we have a good team, we have good players, we have a good staff behind us, and we're doing good things. So obviously, this is the first year of Wilfred's era. Hopefully, next year, I know he's coming back. We announced it early in the season. It's going to be, a continuous thing with him where we can keep building on that. But I'm pretty positive that that's going to be that way. And then I think we did really good things, obviously, now. And guys, at the end of the day, you got to win games to show that you did well. So if we don't make playoffs, if we don't win, that cup, it's going to be obviously an upset for us, a disappointment, because that's the targets that we put in place, the objective during beginning of the year. So these are the two main one. But obviously, like I said, it starts tonight, Forge. We're not even thinking about Red Bulls on Saturday. We want to win tonight against Forge. We want to, show whoever, if we win tonight, whoever we face in the final, that's the cup that we take really seriously, that we are a good team and we're coming for that cup. So yeah, like I said, we're not even thinking about training tomorrow or Red Bull on Saturday. It's all about tonight, get a result, and go back home.
Yeah, I think you maybe mentioned it a little bit there, but it seems like this Montreal team is starting to, develop its identity. You guys are building something, right? Obviously, the offseason was probably a little turbulent for you guys with the coaching change and then starting away from home in the US and then not really knowing what the season would be like. I'm sure that's just a really crazy thing to have to deal with as a player, and also, play football and learn a new system. But it feels like now that you guys are home, you're starting to really come together a little bit. Just can you speak a bit about what this team is like, as a group, and just after so much change and so many difficult situations, just it's starting to look pretty decent for the future, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously you guys saw it, we had a lot of changes on the team, on the coaching staff side. Yes. Obviously we lost Thierry before the season. Our goalkeeper coach was left for Lyon too. For goalkeepers, it was a new reality middle of the seasons to adapt to the new coach. Like I said, the players, a lot of new players. So you have to know first the players, but the individual too, the person, and that takes time for sure. But the fact that we were in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, beginning of the year, and we went through tough times. I think we did a decent job down there, getting results there. But when you go through tough times, this is where you see the real people, the real faces, and that's how I think we glued as a team and got to know each other a lot better. Obviously, now we're towards the end of the season and we know each other a lot better. But no, we got a good group of guys, pretty young. If you look at the roster that we have, and the future is looking good. So I think Wilfred and his staff has done a really good job on the pitch, but also, in terms of the culture of the team. And that's the most important thing, because if us guys can live together and, can see each other's faces in the locker room, then obviously on the pitch, it's a mess, which is not the case. So that's a really positive thing. And like I said, it's positive for whatever's coming after.
A little side story. I'm sure Sammy won't mind me sharing this, but when Thierry Henry left and it was announced that Wilfred was taking over, this guy right here told me this guy is better than most people think. He's going to be a great coach, and Sammy was right. And every credit for Wilfred Nancy to taking over. A couple more minutes and we'll let you go, because I know it's a busy day, but we'd be remiss not to talk about Canadian soccer and where we're at. We just saw the women's celebration this weekend. We're talking about Canadian Championship semi-final. We're just fresh off an unbelievable night at BMO Field, where you got on the pitch and you're part of that group and you're getting ready to go to Edmonton. And by all accounts, the ticket sales are going incredibly well for back-to-back games out there as well. What's it like, Sammy, when you take off the blue tracksuit and put on the red, when you go there and you see your buddies, when you get to play for this national team right now in these massive games?
Yeah, well, first of all, when I arrive in camp and with the national team, it's always a bit weird, because I'm now teammates and friends with guys that I just faced, a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago, guys on TFC, or, like Richie, Ozo, guys like that.
I'm sure they're not giving you any stick about Alpha scoring or anything.
Maybe probably we'll talk about it for sure when we will be in Edmonton. No, it's always nice to see these guys, but it's weird, yeah, for sure at first, but after, we put that on the side and we focus on the national team. Obviously, we're coming off 2 good windows. I'm not going to say great windows, because I think we could have done better. And I think that shows the potential and the ambition, that we have as a team. But I think 2 windows, 10 points, we're in a good position. We're sitting in 3rd place. Obviously, that win at home against Panama, the 4-1, was a big one. We came back from a game in Jamaica, which was tough, but I think we should have won and needed to win. But it's okay after you see them, winning in Honduras. It makes you feel a little bit better. And no, I think it just shows that, when we're home, Toronto, Edmonton, whatever, we are at home, and then we feel more comfortable and we feel more confident too. And then we have to get result at home. I think that's the how you get points, in this tough phase of qualification. Don't lose away and then win at home. That's the strategic plan to try to collect as many points as possible. Now we're going in Edmonton. It's going to be a tough place, I think, for the opposite team. It's going to be cold, I heard. Like you said, the tickets are going really well. So obviously really looking forward to these games, Costa Rica, Mexico. I hope the fans will show up, because we need that support. We need to feel that we are at home, and then the other team is away, like we feel when we go into, these places like Mexico, Jamaica, and all that. But no, it's always an honor. Hopefully I get the called up, because I'm always happy to help and, put that Canadian jersey on, whether it's being on the bench and just helping out in training, or, starting a game and then closing a game, whatever it is. I'm always ready to answer that call and help my country.
Yeah. I mean, Sam, just as one of the slightly more experienced players on that team, a guy who's been around that national team setup for a few years now, do you ever just kind of sit back and think about how far this group has come and how far this program has come in really just a few years here?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when I made my debut with the national team, it was back in 2012, and obviously a lot of coaches went through that program since, a lot of players too. But obviously, if you look at the group that we have now and the staff too, it's day and night compared to what it used to be. And I think we're on the right path. We have a talented group of players, and young too, so these guys won't be there only for 1 or 2 years. They'll be there for a lot of years. So it's looking very promising. And yeah, obviously talent wise, I don't even have to talk about it. I think you guys know it, and people that are watching us sees it, how talented this group is, but how hungry too, we show that going down at home against Panama 1-0 after 5 minutes. I think, we didn't give up, and we knew that we had to win, and we had the quality to win, and then we show it right after that. So it's obviously a quality that maybe we don't talk a lot about, but a team that doesn't give up and are willing to do anything to get a result. This group, it's all about that for sure. Yeah.
You can see the unity. Those nights are special, no? That game against Panama. I mean, those of us who didn't even play it, those of us that are covering it, were texting about 2 a.m. I don't know about you guys. How do you even sleep after a game like that, Sammy? I'm not even going to ask you if you went to see Drake, but I don't know. I don't know what time you get to bed after a night like that, man. It's gonna be tough to sleep after an emotional night like that.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, you think about the game, you think about the celebration, you think about a lot of stuff. These are moments that you're gonna remember. I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life, and this is why we play the sport. This is why we represent the country. It's to leave this moment, but to be able to share it with the fans. At BMO, it was really special, and hopefully more moments like this to come. In the next couple of weeks and couple of months in Canada.
You deserve those memories, no doubt about it, my friend. Keep up the great work. We cannot thank you enough for this time on game day. We'll see you there tonight at Tim Hortons Field, a massive game. Samuel Pierre, always a pleasure to chat. Good luck tonight, Sammy.
Thank you, boys. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. That's the great Samuel Pierre, who's a massive pillar for CF Montreal and, of course, for Canada. And as he said, came on and closed the game up when he needed to in that game. I like that nickname, Sam Piette for Canada. The closer comes in and just bosses the midfield, Charlie. Yeah, this has been fun, man. This has been a good chat with the guys, right?
Yeah, this has been great. We've really gotten a lot of time out of these guys who are obviously very busy on game day. Or I don't know if Sam's going to go take a pre-match nap or something now, or something like that. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and it's really, helped set up just how big this game is going to be tonight.
Yeah, Julian in the comments said I could listen to this guy all day. Such a great speaker, and that's what he is. He's just a genuinely great human being, and the humility is there. I'm not sure if he's going to get called up. He said for the next camp. I'm pretty sure he'd be called up for the next camp. I think he's going to be there fine. Again, thanks to everyone for joining us on this lunchtime edition of the show as we preview Forge tonight against CF Montreal in the Canadian Championship semi-final. Check CanPL.ca for all our coverage. A reminder: the game is live on One Soccer. The great guys over there. The best, Andy Petrillo, Gareth Wheeler, Ollie Platt will all be over that coverage as well. Not sure who's calling the game, probably Adam, but yeah, those will be all over it tonight as well. Over on the One Soccer side, we'll be at the game covering it for Canadian Premier League as well, so check out our coverage there. Hopefully we'll see many of you there, and if not, watch the game tonight. And again, thanks for spending some time today on this wonderful Wednesday lunch hour. Charlie, thanks again, man. We'll see you tonight.
Thanks, KJ. Yeah, see you tonight. I can't wait.
Looking forward to it. The game's coming thick and fast, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the match, and we'll see you soon.